direction that was given in 1949 by the Tofino commissioners, in which they asked their staff to write a letter to the Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs to ask if a bylaw could be made to exclude Orientals from buying or owning property within the municipality. We unearthed again the 1997 resolution that was made when Mr. Sada Sato came to the District of Tofino's council because he had purchased property on Lynn Road and he wanted to build his own home, and he had heard about this possible bylaw. So again, it was confirmed that no bylaw existed, and Tofino Council of the day took the step of formally rescinding the motion. And rescinding means essentially striking it from the public record. But of course, it's very important that things like this not be stricken from public memory, and that we do everything that we can to remember the injustices of the past. Welcome. We are gathered here today on Ucluelet territory to conduct some very important business. Thank you for being here. To our special guests, we are very honored by your presence. And for all others, you are witnesses today, and you play a very special role. So listen with your full body, your mind, and your spirit to what you see and hear today. I'll begin by reading into the record a historical perspective that's been provided by the National Association of Japanese Canadians, and then I'll make the apology on behalf of Council. And I do want to introduce Council to you, and they stand behind me. And we have Councillor Dorothy Bart, Councillor Duncan McMaster, Councillor Tom Steer, Councillor Andrea McQuaid, Councillor Al Anderson, and Councillor Britt Chalmers. And I'm Josie Osborne, the Mayor of the District of Tofino. So this is the statement. Between 1941 to 1949, 22,000 Japanese Canadians, men, women, and children, more than 70% of whom were Canadian-born or naturalized, were stripped of their rights, dispossessed of property and belongings, interned and forcibly removed from the West Coast. In 1941, Japanese Canadians in Tofino were affected by the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the war with Japan. On December 15, 1941, their fishing boats were rounded up and confiscated. Japanese Canadians were labeled enemy aliens despite the fact that the military advised they were no threat to the country. In 1942, they were given 24 hours notice to gather belongings and moved from their homes in Tofino, eventually taken by ferry to Vancouver's Hastings Park, a horse stable reeking of manure and urine that was converted into sleeping quarters where they stayed until they were moved into the interior of BC into internment camps. John Yoshio Makadoro's family moved to Tofino in the 1920s. They had a fishing boat that was used to fish in the waters around Tofino. Even in the 30s, his father faced discriminatory restrictions, such as where they could fish, and allowing only one person on the boat to fish. They had built a home on the property of 700 Campbell Street, Tofino, and lived there from 1938 to 1942. In 1942, they were taken to Hastings Park, along with others living on Vancouver Island. John and his brother Thomas were selected to work on a road camp in Schreiber, Ontario. In 1951, the BC Packers recruited workers and were willing to arrange financial assistance for new boats. John returned to fishing on the West Coast. In 1941, his boat, the Crown, had been confiscated without remuneration and was never returned. The new boat cost $11,000 and was named Challenger 11. Two. Thank you. He took this new boat through Duffin Passage and around Grice Point. He was home after 10 years, but it was no longer his home. Discrimination forced them out, but salmon fishing brought them back. For many years, he could not talk about what happened from 1941 to 1951. John and his family moved to Port Alberni and did not return to live in Tofino. In an interview in 2009, he said, "Our family house was still standing, but I could not look at it without feeling angry." The village of Tofino looked the same, but no longer were Japanese Canadians living there. I heard that they had passed a bylaw in January 1947 prohibiting Orientals from owning property in Tofino. This bylaw was removed from the books in November 1997 after Mr. Sato complained. And that concludes the statement. So here is the apology. In January 1947, commissioners of the Corporation of the Village of Tofino passed a resolution that all Orientals be excluded completely from the municipality and prevented from owning property or carrying on business directly or indirectly within the municipality. In 1949, commissioners gave direction to the clerk to write a letter to the Deputy Minister of Municipal Affairs to ask if a bylaw could be made to exclude Orientals from buying or owning property within the municipality. In 1997, the District of Tofino Council formally rescinded the motion of January 1947 to exclude Orientals and recorded the rescinding in the official public record. A formal apology was not made at that time. Today, we are here to declare that the District of Tofino Council takes full responsibility for its actions of 1947 and 1949, and we acknowledge that the words, actions, and intentions of the past, both spoken and unspoken, caused harm and suffering. We regret these actions, and today we offer a formal and sincere apology to Japanese Canadians, all persons of Asian descent, and to all others affected by our actions. We reject any exclusionary policy based on racial or ethnic origin, and we make a solemn commitment that such injustices will never again be countenanced. While today's apology may be interpreted as an act of closure, it is also a call to action. So we call upon the witnesses here present to tell others about what you saw and heard today. And we call upon all present to embrace the shared responsibility to uphold the principles of human rights, justice, and equality today and into the future. Let this event be a catalyst to increase public understanding and dialogue on how and why injustices such as those of Tofino's past must never happen again. Thank you for being here.